Hi. All right, good. We are on. If anybody was watching, we had a little technology snafu, but we're here now. Okay, so I am here with Brittany Bailey. I've been posting a lot about her. So you've seen her face on social media. But if you haven't met her, or if you are not very familiar with her, I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit. But what we're going to be talking about today is breathing, which is why Brittany's here, because she's a breathing expert. And we're going to talk about breathing specifically for anxiety, for different things like headaches and tension, and so many different things that breathing is involved with, specifically for kids in school. So it factors into everybody, every age. But we're going to be talking especially about school, just since it's back to school. There's a lot of changes. This back to school season is very different from any other. And there is anxiety both with kids and with parents. And I've been seeing that a lot with people who are calling into the office or coming in and just really concerned about what the difference is about school are going to be doing as far as anxiety and that kind of thing. So anyway, that is what we're talking about. So if you have a kid, if you are a kid, if you are really anybody, because all of this is going to apply, we're going to do some things that are fun for little kids and also fun for adults. So so this is basically for everybody, but especially for people who are parents of school age children. So anyway, Brittany, do you want to introduce yourself?
I do. So I'm Brittany, and I am with Joyful Breathing. And Joyful Breathing is a practice based off of orofacial myology and breathing education. Orofacial myology is the focus of the tongue and the lips and how it relates to breathing, but also other functions such as speech and swallowing and just oral development. But with the breathing side, it comes in to the mouth, but also it's a joy that I have separately, helping people look at their breath in a way they never have before, harness that power that they do have to move forward with it in a more beneficial way. So it is exercise-based and fun, and just really learning about our bodies in a new way, and learning how to show it some kindness and learn how to give it what it tells us in various situations.
Nice. I like that. As you're talking, just think of a lot of what I do is looking at people to see deficiencies, like nutritional deficiencies. Mm-hmm. So like, what are your nails telling me? What is your tongue telling me? Your hair, your skin, your symptoms, all of that stuff. And there's so much that we can tell. I mean, I listen to people's heart and lungs, but you do it in a very different way, like looking at different symptoms to show that the breathing is not quite where it can be, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So it is, what is the breath telling us? And then within that, why do we breathe the way we do? And that could be, why do we breathe the way we do when we're at school, when we're at work, when we're around certain people, when we think of a certain thought. Our breath is always changing throughout the day, and there is the mind component with it. So it is looking at the behaviors and then the root and the why behind it.
Cool. So I want to ask about specifically things that parents would identify in their kids, like symptoms that they would see in their kids, to be like, oh yes, that is something that Bobby does. And so I need to listen. So what are the different symptoms that you usually see, or just signs that kids in particular are either struggling with their breath or would benefit from learning how to breathe better?
The biggest sign is mouth breathing. That is a big sign of an unideal breathing behavior. Symptom-wise, it is being kind of short of breath consistently throughout. It's not just because they have a cough or something. Shortness of breath, having anxiety, kind of unknown anxiety as to why, emotional outbursts, clenching, grinding the teeth. That is not just a stress sign, that is breathing related. And then just kind of feeling on edge. And kiddos who have like exercise induced asthma suddenly, and just kind of those sudden things that there's not really reasons why, can be connected to the breath quite a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. So tell me why mouth breathing is not good. There's a lot of mouth breathers out there.
Yes. I think if we took a poll, a lot of people, if they were honest, would say they were mouth breathers. Yeah. But mouth breathing is not ideal in our general form of breathing for many reasons. The air that we bring in through the mouth is cold, it's not filtered, and it's not moisturized. So the air coming through the nose gets humidified, gets warmed up, and it gets filtered. So that is good for our tissues and just our body because it wants the warm air and the clean air. So that's one reason. Another reason is as we're breathing in and out through our mouth, we are releasing a lot of carbon dioxide. And we need carbon dioxide. It is a byproduct of various functions that our body does. And as we bring in oxygen, the oxygen comes in, gets attached to red blood cells, which is awesome. We love oxygen. But if it wasn't for carbon dioxide coming along and kicking it off the red blood cell, kicking the oxygen off, we wouldn't be able to use that oxygen. So we need carbon dioxide. And when we breathe through our mouth, we release a lot of that out. And so our body's reserve gets depleted, and then that is where symptoms arise because then the body will constrict, anxiety increases, muscular tension, clenching, just the body's on stress mode. So we want to filter and regulate the breath through the nose. That helps us keep that balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen more properly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious with for anyone watching from Colorado, with all the smoke and stuff, my allergies have been terrible this season. And I'm struggling not to mouth breathe. So what would you say to that? Because I think I'm not typically a mouth breather. I think I am pretty conscious about that. But as far as that, like in that kind of crisis time when you can't, or even, I guess, even you went for a long run or something like that, where you just can't really get yourself to stop mouth breathing.
Yeah, it kind of becomes muscle memory. So we've been around the smoke for quite a while, and then our body's been shifted into not nasal breathing because of the smell, because of kind of how overwhelming it is. And I think the biggest thing is when you are in an area where you do feel like it is clean air, it is a safe space where you feel like you can explore the breath, you have that time, that energy. It's just about being mindful of making that switch. Yeah. I think we mouth breathe so much we don't realize how long we carry it over past the good use of it. Like you said, with the smoke, sometimes we have to do that. Right. But then once we're out of that, just making that conscious effort to switch back. Okay. Gradually. Right. Sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Right. Yeah. Having little alarms go off. Oh, check my breath. How am I breathing?
Do you recommend doing that?
I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. My mom, she has a Jewel sticker on her phone. Okay. And that's her breathing. How is she breathing? Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I've never thought about that. That's a good idea. I should do that because I'm in the recovery mode now. Yes. But yeah, so making that. So then, okay, me as an adult and with my phone, and I can put a sticker on my phone and remind myself. So how would parents remind kids to do that? Or how would you work that remembering to do the nasal breathing with kids?
So stickers go great for kids too. Finding or drawing a nose and putting it on the refrigerator. But with breathing, it is family driven. It takes the kids trying it and the parents doing it as well and modeling it. Parents modeling good breathing. And even if they have a set routine of in the morning, they have a 2-minute breathing break, or in the afternoon having a breathing break, kind of incorporating it into their busy schedule in the car. You know, it's doable when you're rushing to soccer or, you know, piano lessons or whatnot. So for parents, modeling it is huge and kind of showing them that, modeling it. And then just asking them simple questions like, what does the air feel like when it comes in your nose? Just that simple question of bringing the awareness makes kids kind of zone in and then it carries through.
Nice. So we have a bunch of toys in front of us.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to talk about those things, or is that a good time to talk about it?
It is. Okay. So with breathing, it's not as easy as breathe through your nose. Mm-hmm. You'll be fine. Just do it from here on out for the rest of your life. Sometimes breathing through the nose can be daunting, can be overwhelming, especially for someone who is primarily a mouth breather. Mm-hmm. When we switch to the nose, the body kind of goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? This is not our normal. Mm-hmm. The body adapts, but it also gets used to what it's used to and normal. So we bring in toys to bring our awareness to the breath, but in a fun, not daunting way. So the first one we're going to do are these Pinwheel Breaths. You can get these at any craft store, dollar store. They always have them. But this is going to be an exercise for when you just kind of have to let out steam. You're stressed out and you don't want to kind of calm down and be still. You kind of want to do something to release that. So the pinwheel breathing incorporates breathing through the nose, but then also releasing stress. So with this one, we are going to mouth breathe, but for just an exercise, that's okay. So you inhale slowly through the nose, and then you blow out. Mine keeps getting stuck, but you blow out kind of in a rhythmic way. This is good for regulating all the air that is coming out, because you don't just want to just kind of just sigh it out. You just want to intentionally breathe out if you need to, because when you work out, when you have sniffles, mouth breathing is going to happen when there is smoke in the air or an allergen. So you kind of want to learn how to regulate it. So with this, again, you just breathe in through the nose, and then you slowly breathe it out. And I already feel like, I'm a little more relaxed. That's awesome.
If we're doing this throughout tonight's class, you'll just know we just felt like we needed a moment.
Yes, just needed a breath break. But this is good. I used to be a mouth breather, and it was so overwhelming when I'm like, okay, breathe through the nose, lips together. And it was frustrating, to be honest. So these are really great for kind of diverting the attention solely on it and just kind of having an objective. Mm-hmm. The other good thing are bubbles. Again, dollar store. Let me tell you. This is the same. We're breathing out through the mouth, but this is it in an even slower way. Might be getting it everywhere. Are you fine with me?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
We'll just try not to get bubbles on the camera screen.
Yes. So again, in through the nose. If you're going to do one or the other, breathing either in through the nose or out through the nose, and you can only choose one, choose breathing in through the nose, just in a slow way. All right, so I'm going to breathe in, and then slowly try to get as many bubbles. Again, for kids, this is fun, but adults, I think everyone loves bubbles. It slows my breath down, whereas sometimes when we mouth breathe, we're kind of breathing fast. Mm-hmm. Really, it's about the rate as well. The rate in which we breathe, not just the form in which we breathe.
Can I mention something really quick?
Yes.
From a parent side note, because I think it seems like the bubbles are mostly for the kids. However, my kids love running around and chasing bubbles when I blow them, you know? So like the bubble aspect, Maggie will do it a bunch of times and it's good. And she'll do it. She'll get that breathing. Yeah. And then she's like, all right, now I'm going to run and chase them. And I think it's really helpful for me too. I've just been thinking through that. I haven't done this strategically yet. But just like, it's not especially for parents with younger kids, at least. My kids are 4 and under, to be able to also have that time. So like in a time of feeling really frustrated with them or anxious or, anything going on, I feel like that's a really good dual purpose. Like first the kids can do it and then they get bored really fast doing that. At least mine does. And then we just switch back and forth. And that's what we usually do.
I love it.
Maybe that's just like a intrinsic thing, you know, where the
Yeah.
body's like, all right, pass it off.
Yes.
Mom needs a time, you know.
And even just if the kids do 4 or 5 times, that's plenty to help the body. Yeah. Like any little effort helps big time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that.
So I like that. Cool. Switching it.
I noticed something else with this too. Because I was introduced to this a couple days ago. We've been using it in mealtime. So we just have it like at our table. And if sometimes mealtime becomes stressful where maybe a child doesn't necessarily want to be eating what is served. And so we've just actually started doing, so 2 blows on the pinwheel and then a bite of food and 2 blows and a bite. Ooh. And it's been fantastic, actually. Yeah. We've only done it a few times so far, but actually like taking down, it makes it silly, first of all. So mealtime is fun again. It's not stressful. And then it doesn't get to the point where there's a meltdown because of it, because we are actually regulating the breathing too.
That's wonderful.
So I have really liked that one.
That is great. And breathing really helps. I mean, this goes for everyone, because I'm sure adults all have those moments where you just can't verbalize what you're feeling. Yeah. So you want to release it in some way, but you just can't verbalize it. So sometimes it comes out, you were snappy, or you huffed or puffed. With kids, there's a lot of emotions and tears. Breathing really helps kind of calm the body down, and then the mind and the brain and just everything can then think clearly through those moments, through those frustration moments. So that's wonderful to bring that in right away. That's great. Yeah. So the next one, we got slinkies here. So there are those times kind of lead into what we were just talking about, how emotions take over. And when we may want to say, oh, okay, honey, breathe through your nose. You're fine. But that sometimes gets people even more frustrated, just because they're just so overwhelmed. So as slinkies, it's a way of modeling, slowing your breath down, kind of getting it to a more relaxed state from a heightened, overworked state, but without having to slow down when you're having like a meltdown. So this takes the focus off of that. So for parents or even just adults, having one of these in the office is great, where you hold on to it. And when you inhale, this is going to be in through the nose, out through the nose. When you extend it, that's the inhale. So your lungs are expanding. And then I'm going to go this way. And then when you exhale, you close it. So your lungs are getting smaller. They're releasing that air through the nose. But this is a good where maybe the emotions are high and you're having someone focus on it, and you're kind of going at a rate that is a little faster than what you think someone should be at to relax. It's all about the process. So you may start fast, inhale, exhale, inhale, and then as the emotions calm down, or as you feel like you can, if you're doing this with yourself, you can slow down the breath. It's all about listening to your body. Your body will tell you, and kids will tell you. If you're doing this for a kid and you see them watching it and focusing on it, and you see that they've calmed down, maybe their shoulders have, depressed down, and they're a little more calm, you can get the signs to slow it down. And then that way, maybe the stressor is still there. Maybe their brother still hurt their feelings, but they're able to go forward with the chemistry and the ability to kind of then filter through that incident or that situation with a little more confidence and poise and regulation. So those are great tools for those. So
for the slinky one, that's more the adult is doing that while the child is watching, or is the child doing this?
I think starting at age 7 would be good to have the kid try it. At least, watch it and then try it. I think under would be awesome for the parents to do it. But I think from 7 and up, it would be a great progressive tool for them to learn, kind of regulating and listening to their body on their own and knowing when to slow down, trying it at least for a few times.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, so these are really good for at home. or even in the car, that kind of thing, like when you're more in your territory.
Yes.
So I want to switch it a little bit over to when your kids are going to school, or anywhere. Even, we have a lot of people, in the BWell community who are homeschooled but are still in co-ops or whatever it is. So wherever you are not in your normal home environment, which for a lot of kids is just anxiety provoking in itself, with just being somewhere else. And then with anything else that school brings along, we were talking about like tests and presentations and all of the things that really bring, I've talked to a few people lately who are concerned about their kids kind of just like freezing. Like they see, they start getting anxious and then just kind of freeze and like can't move, kind of what you were saying, where it's just like constricted, you know? So for those kind of things, what would you say when they can't necessarily have their pinwheel or,
Yeah. When in situations like that, you can't take bubbles to school. There's a lot that you can do, whether it is with a mask on or you're at a school setting or a work setting. One of them that I love is it brings the tactile component, because the freezing aspect that you're hearing, people may have breathing behaviors that are unideal, like we talked about mouth breathing or fast breathing, but also people just hold their breath. That is a behavior, not breathing. They bring in a little air to not pass out, but they just kind of constrict, brace, and they're, frozen. So number one, it's a matter of remembering to breathe. And then of course, breathing through the nose, but even just having that reminder of, okay, keep bringing air in, air out in those stressful situations. So my favorite, it's the 5-finger breath. You hold out your 5 fingers, whether you're in a place where you can do that, or you kind of just put them on the desk, spread out on the desk, and you take your other hand and you're tracing your fingers. So just having that tactile sensation just right now is a great reminder. And then how we bring the breath in is when you go up, you inhale, and then when you go down, you exhale. So it's like the slinky. You're just modeling the cycles of a breath, inhale, exhale. And with this, it is great because you can choose the speed. You can choose, how fast you go up and how fast you go down. And when you're in school, about to give that presentation, you're at work, you're about to go talk to your boss, whatever it may be, you can do this even just on your lap. You can do this and you don't even have to fully, spread your fingers, just having that physical reminder. You do have an item. It's not a pinwheel, it's not a slinky, but you have your hand always with you. So that is great. Again, just up, inhale, down, exhale. And your body will tell you how fast. I think we forget that our body knows how to breathe. We sometimes alter it because we think, I'm gonna, I don't even know. One example that is kind of sad is women contract their stomach because they don't want the pooch. That affects the breath. It becomes more shallow. And then that's how you breathe. Or, I don't like that person, and to not, say something mean, I'm just going to hold my breath, So we know how to breathe, but we alter it. The body knows how. We are the ones that alter it. So it's just a matter of listening to what speed it wants, what depth it wants. And usually people notice, oh, I felt a little more calm. I felt a little more warm. I felt good. The other one is a figure 8. So if you feel like you can't have your hand and you can't trace it, and, people may ask, you can just, whether it's on your desk, on your hand, on your lap, just trace the figure 8. So when you go up, you're inhaling, kind of have the pause. When you go down, you're exhaling. And just this symbol, the infinity symbol, or the 8, actually triggers a relaxation shift of your nervous system.
That's cool.
Just having that sensation. So yeah, you can do as small as you want, just a little where no one even knows, but you are bringing the awareness. That's really the biggest thing, awareness. So before the presentation, before the test, during the test, you're able to still focus on your breath while you're in the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to excuse ourselves from life to be able to get to a better breathing state and then enter back in, because life will just pass us by. So those are good tools while you're in it. Maybe you are, you know, about to audition for a play, or, you know, you have a basketball game coming up. Those are great things to prep for and even do during those stressful tests or situations.
Yeah, that's really usable and very discreet. And I feel like that could become just a habit, like you were saying, if parents are mimicking, or, you know, parents are modeling it, and you're doing this at home, and that just becomes kind of a thing. Like, you sit down before you even start your homework, you do the 5 fingers, you know, before you flip the page, you do that, and just kind of getting into a rhythm. Kind of a Pavlov dog kind of thing. That is just what you do. I like that. I'm trying to think of how I can implement that in my stuff. Like, before I pick up another phone call, or before I, you know, write another page, or whatever it is.
Like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, or every time while you brush, well, not brushing your teeth. That shifts the breathing. But yeah, like the next time you get stopped at a red light, you know, just do a quick figure 8. Or, I
like that. It's like women who are supposed to do Kegels during red lights or commercials.
Because the more you do that stuff, the less you'll drop into those symptom areas with your chemistry.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to ask that.
So sometimes we have these symptoms, and that's because our chemistry is unbalanced. It's low. It's, you know, carbon dioxide and oxygen aren't matching up. And that's kind of where people feel the 3 p.m. slump. Or, you know, the afternoon they get the headaches, or whether they're at work or not. That could be chemistry based, where we start off good in the morning and then we drop off. Because our behaviors throughout the day. So the more you can work on those behaviors, the more the chemistry will just stay optimal. Not getting into that symptom zone.
Oh, I'm going to use that, because I always talk about whether it's a hypoglycemic kind of thing, or like what nutritionally we can do for that. But that makes so much sense if it's kind of a dual aspect. I'm going to use that. Cool. That's great. So you mentioned, I was actually going to ask, like, okay, so someone's anxious. Do we expect, you know, you do 3 of these, or like, what's your general practice? Like, to tell kids, just to coach kids as they're going into school. So, okay, you're going to, you know, so every time you do it, you're just going to do 1, or just do a couple of them, or like, do you have like a prescription dosage or something for that?
I don't really. The prescription side, I guess, would come when doing the set exercises that I give in addition, like with the myofunctional work. And it's usually 5 to 7 breaths, and that is more to introduce the body to that new habit, and just kind of start to get comfortable with it. From there, I do tell people, whenever you feel like you need it, and for however long. And sometimes people get frustrated with that, because they're like, I just want to know what to do and when to do it. But every body is different. And every situation is different. So that is kind of where you just looking inward more and more, and asking your body what it needs, and kind of just having these tools in your toolbox, because maybe one day you use the 5 fingers, and then on the weekend you're able to use the bubbles. You know, every day is going to ask for something different. So it is a matter of just listening in and just trying things. Sometimes things people don't resonate with, you know, one day versus the other.
Right.
So it's just trying them and seeing how you respond. It's no cookie cutter, I
Mm-hmm.
always say.
So I think, well, tell me if you would do anything different specifically with masking, because it seems like all of that's doable, like with the mask. Is there any particular, things to keep in mind if the kids do have to have a mask on, as far as,
Yeah. So what I have heard and what I've even found for myself, it's almost as if the mask suddenly triggers different beliefs with breathing, where it is a barrier, but the body can still breathe with it.
Okay.
So I think, excuse me, sometimes we feel like, oh, I can't breathe with this. I'm just going to breathe through my mouth. And it does trigger the psychological side. So I think for kids in masks, whether they're anxious or they like them or they don't like them, whatever, wherever you fall on it, nasal breathing, and then just trying to get deep breaths. Because the masks, for whatever reason, it's different for everyone, they do trigger shallow breathing. So you kind of get just stuck in the chest. And that's going to provide friction. You're going to feel really tight, your shoulders, it has a ripple effect. So the more someone can just take deep breaths and breathe through the nose. One fun exercise, I'll add another one. While in school, you can't fully do it to the extent that I'm going to explain, but it's called smelling something delicious. So it's like you're taking in air as if you're smelling, something really good, ice cream or lasagna or whatever it may be. So you really get that depth. The depth is huge. And then you kind of release it. When you're not in a social setting, you release it with a hum. That was really good. Smells delicious. But in school, you can kind of emulate that. Just kind of imagine that you're breathing something good in that smells good, and then releasing it as if you're like, that was good without the hum, but that brings in the depth reminder.
And I wonder, there's so many people that are way better versed in essential oils than I am. But I have a couple scents that I really like, and I usually will diffuse them. And, I think about just the blends that different companies make for stress in particular, and for just more of that like getting parasympathetic or the relaxation ones. I wonder if that would be, I'm just thinking through if there even could be just a dab on the mask or something like that. And it's just actually bringing that in. Cause I feel like for me, that would stimulate it for, when I smell that to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to really bring that one in,
Yeah. I know on Pinterest, there's like recipes for the sprays.
Okay.
For masks.
That's a good idea.
Specifically. Okay. So if that's your cup of tea, I do that and I love it.
Yeah. Cool. That's good. And I imagine kids can bring that, right? It just looks like hand sanitizer probably. If you have. So. Yeah. I'm very out of touch with what kids can bring into school, actually. Let's see. That brings up a couple other things. I'm going to jump in here really quick. I hope that's okay.
Absolutely.
For anyone who is kind of similarly to essential oils, but who more of what I have looked more into is the Bach Flowers, which there's I think there's 38 now, I'm blanking, 36 or 38 Bach Flowers, and they're all for different types of emotional responses. So they are basically like tinctures that are made from certain flowers that were found back in the early 1900s, I believe, to have specific responses for each different emotion. And they're very specific. So like, if you are anxious about something that's going to happen, but it has never happened before, but like there's all these different little caveats. So it's really good to look at, there's a lot of surveys online and stuff about check these off and see which one more applies to you. But there's several that are more for the kind of when you're more heightened and you just need help coming down, whether it's through panic or like situational or more internal kind of stuff. But one that probably most people are familiar, if you're familiar with Bach Flowers, you would be most familiar with Rescue Remedy. And I know Brittany, we were talking about this right before we went live, and I know Brittany likes those. They have they have a tincture, and then they have, how do you say them?
Pastilles.
Pastilles, which are basically lozenges that you can just suck on, which would be really utilizable during school too. And that really does actually just kind of bring down a stress response. So I would send those. It's just like looks like those little old like Altoid boxes or something, like a little tin.
Where
Yeah.
you push it and it. Yeah.
But not candy, not sweet, not something that I would, be like, don't give your kids that, but really helpful for that. And it does kind of help just like retrain the body to get into more of a parasympathetic state. And then cell salts are some of my favorite as well. There's 12 different ones. And I do have some stuff I've written on this, but there's a couple in particular that are really good. Califas and Calcfas are really good for anxiety. And they're just like these little, oh man, I wish I had mine, but they all spilled in my purse last night. It was so sad. But just these little white pellets that dissolve. And they're just the core basic, like the most elemental salts of our bodies. But they each have different purposes. So those two, Califas and Calcfas, are really, really good for those. And you can find them in any like health food kind of store. And then Bioplasma is a combination of all of those. And so even if you're like, which one did I want to get? You can get Bioplasma and it kind of covers those. So as far as sending kids to school with those, I think those would be really helpful. As you're going along with this kind of stuff, because I think just bringing in a couple different, the sensory stuff, the chemistry kind of stuff, the emotional, would be really helpful. So
it's good to build your toolbox.
Yeah,
with many avenues.
Yeah. Okay, and then maybe a last question, but I usually come up with more. So then, what would you recommend? So kids have been in school, probably with the mask on. They've kind of done their things. They're coming back and they're pretty hyped. Like parents are picking them up, in the car and they're pretty hyped up from school, or just really overwhelmed. I was just reading about a bunch of statistics of how long it takes kids to unwind. It was specifically with kids under age 6, to unwind after being with 2 or more of kids that same age. This sounds like a really boring thing, but it was really interesting actually to read. And it takes kids so much time to unwind. Like other kids rub off on them. And it's just this like tension that automatically happens when they're with other kids. So then you put them in a room with, 30 plus kids or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, it's hard to come down. So recommendations for parents specifically as kids are coming home, and you kind of have to make that transition again. So you're no longer in this like heightened response. You're supposed to be able to be calm, right? Parents are like, chill out, to do homework or eat or whatever it is. So what would you recommend, even if it's any of these in particular exercises, but for that like home release response kind of thing?
I think number one, when you want to get into that calming breath mode, it's a matter of getting the wiggles out for at least 10 minutes, whether that's, let me tell you about the 500 things I did today, tell the kid, telling the parent, kind of allowing that time, kind of being okay with that wiggle room of just, okay, wiggles out, let's go get a snack and then let's have our time. So kind of having like a projected time for breathing, but understanding that it does take time and we're not always able to get into that kind of calm state. But one exercise that I love, this is my favorite one. It's called the horse breathing exercise. And it is for that when you just, need the wiggles out and kids are excited. Maybe they're just so happy with their day and they're just over the moon and that's awesome. But maybe they have to kind of come down because they're going to go into, violin lessons or whatever. And you kind of need to be calm for that. So horse breathing, you breathe in through the nose. Shocker. I know. Breathe in through the nose. And then when you release it, so that vibration sensation shifts to parasympathetic, the rest and digest, which is what parents want. Right. So that one is fun, but not everyone can do the lip bouncing off. Okay. So with that one, it would be similar to the smelling something delicious. You'd inhale and then you hum. With this, though, they can do it while like they dance. Okay. Or they can raise their arms up when they inhale and then let the wiggles out when they exhale. Okay. Because sometimes physical movement is needed because it is hard to sit still.
Yeah.
For any age, but especially after a long day of school, maybe where they sat for too long. Maybe they had a great day with friends and they're heightened that way, but they maybe didn't get the movement they needed. So I think dancing is great, physical activity in any form, and then going into more of a set. Okay, let's sit down for 5 minutes and have our breath time. Because I think if you have that expectation that it'll suddenly be calm once you start these, it's going to be a frustration. So kind of having a bit of wiggle room there to lead into it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a really good reminder. I mean, it's the same with adults. Like you can't just go from, working a super stressful day and then fall asleep immediately. Like you have to have kind of your nighttime routine or at least some kind of wind down. So yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, if you, we're going to be here a couple more minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in chat. There is a little bit of a delay, but feel free to ask any questions. Brittany's fully prepared for all the answers. But in the meantime, Brittany, can you tell people where to find you and then what they would come to you for? So I know you do all of this breathing and you do some other things as well. So
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it is joyfulbreathingcolorado.com. That's the website. And it's just Joyful Breathing is the overall name, but joyfulbreathingcolorado.com. And, we do the breathing, as you said, but other stuff that we work on is the oral component, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning. We work with the tongue to open, to get it out of the way of the airway, but also promote proper dental development, orthodontic care. We go in alignment with orthodontia. If someone is tongue-tied, if they have restricted fascia and tissue, we work on that. Clenching, grinding, anything of that sort with the mouth for all ages. And then the breathing side, we do take it further for kids and adults to really learn, why are we breathing the way we are? What is it triggering? What is the body telling us? And then what is going to be more beneficial? So we dive more into the respiratory psychophysiology side of it, just the mind-body connection with the breath, and if there are things from the past that are kind of interwoven with anxiety or any kind of breathing behavior. So I kind of combine all of it. Sometimes just breathing through the nose, having the lips together is impossible for people. So we work on the lip musculature to make sure the structure is ideal so we can have ideal breathing as well.
Cool. That's so much.
It covers so much. Thumb sucking, nail biting, hair pulling, biting on things. There's a lot connected with the mouth and breathing. It blows my mind. So.
All right. I have one more request for you.
Okay.
Will you show us just proper, and you might need to kind of get up a little more. My belly won't really let me do much, but like just a good posture, diaphragm, belly, like what we're looking for with just a really beautiful, perfectly structured breath.
Okay. Yeah. So it is sitting tall comfortably. We don't want to be overarching. And if you have a back on your chair, that is great to rely on that. Because sometimes if we don't have a back, we tense more to hold ourselves up. So we just kind of get into a comfortable position and then just making sure that shoulders are dropped comfortably. I like to have people imagine, if they have certain areas that are tense, to imagine that area turning into cotton candy or being filled with sunshine, something sensory that they can like bring relaxation to. And then when you inhale, your belly is what expands, really. You're bringing air into your lungs. The diaphragm is going down. Organs are kind of being shifted outward a little bit. So we want a little bit of chest movement. We don't want to, have tons. So you just bring it in gently, and the body again will tell you to what level. And then when you release, it's as if you're just releasing the air and it comes out on its own. We don't force it out, but the belly does go back. And then you just kind of have your head in a good position. And the best position, I guess, to start practicing this is laying on your back.
Okay.
Gravity is hard. So if this is hard for people, try laying on your back, and then just imagining that your belly is a balloon and it's expanding when you inhale and decreasing when you exhale.
Cool.
So posture is everything. Yes.
Thanks. All right. We have a question here. Any advice for adults whose bodies register stress before they're really mentally aware of it? I tend to have stomach aches or get sick, and that's my signal that I'm stressed out. But by then, I'm already feeling sick. Maybe ways to breathe or decompress daily to try to get ahead of that. Or are there exercises you've given kids equally usable for adults as well?
So I'll answer the last one first. Okay. Yes, they are all perfect for any age. The best time to start them is now. When it comes to stress and suddenly realizing you're there, you're in that symptom zone, it is a matter of trying. It's not always possible, but trying to backtrack, even just step by step. What leads into the sudden awareness of stress? Once we figure that out, what leads to that? What is the ripple effect? Going backwards. Sometimes that's not possible. So what we do is we try different breathing behaviors to lead into that stress symptom zone, which sounds backwards. Why would we do that? But that tells us what breathing behavior may be related. So that is, say, if we worked on it, that is kind of how I'd go about it. If someone is at home trying to explore that on their own, I think it would take a lot of awareness, and then just trying to see, just backtrack little by little. Maybe you have to go through these stress symptom zones 10 times before you really feel like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see these steps. But there are steps, and it's just a matter of really digging in and seeing, if I breathe through my mouth all day long, are those the days I get into this zone?
Okay.
Maybe not. Maybe it's I'm holding my breath. So it is kind of it's a puzzle, and seeing what puzzle pieces match up, and sadly it does take trying some behaviors to see if those are the triggers.
So when you say a breathing behavior, what do you mean?
That could be just in any way we breathe.
Okay.
Nasal breathing, mouth breathing, chest, diaphragm, incomplete breaths. Sometimes we rush it. Okay. We bring in the air quick, or we let out the air not long enough. It can be so many. People bite on their lip while they breathe. That's a breathing behavior. It just varies.
And then when you said that we have to backtrack, are you saying we have to just be aware, or actually do those breaths? Like figure out what kind of breathing behaviors we were doing and then do them again? Does that question make sense? It does make sense, and it's kind of both. Okay.
So everyone is just so different. But if someone does get into a stress zone, say, for example, me, I get very tense and I clench, and I know I'm an intense person. For me, I've had to go backwards, going, okay, what was the hour like before I got into the state of tension? Okay. Was I having a ruminating thought? Was I, how was I breathing? And then why was I breathing that way? What were my thoughts around it? That's, again, the psychophysiology side of it. Why are we breathing the way we breathe? A great example is my mom. She has asthma, and her breathing behavior and then she exhales quickly to then bring in the next air. So we had to figure out, why was she doing that? And for a while it was, I don't know. So the more she dove into the breathing behaviors that she does, she started to see, when she tried different behaviors, she had a comfort zone, a safety net for the unideal behaviors, because when she was having asthma attacks, it was all about getting that next inhale. And at that time, it was survival, which was so important, which is good, the body responding. But then once the asthma attack was gone, she was still bringing in quick inhales and trying to get the next inhale, even though she was out of survival mode. Yeah. She was still, and we had to figure that out by trying to change those behaviors. And then she, there was a comfort level of letting go of that. Yeah. So it's very multi-layered. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're saying acutely, like right in the moment, the kids, same thing as the kids kind of breathing exercises is really helpful.
Yes.
For adults.
Yes.
And then more chronically, to actually figure out what's going on is kind of taking back the, is more the investigation that you're just talking about.
Yes.
And then I imagine also retraining and still doing these even when you're not having like a panic attack or a stomach ache or something like that, but more retraining when it's not during the acute phase.
Yes. Yes. It's just kind of like fitness. You gotta have to keep your body in tune and, ship shape. And breathing is that way because there will be another stressful situation that you may respond differently to. So being aware of that and then be like, no, that was my old behavior. Yeah. I'm going to choose to respond differently because I have practiced and I have that power to make that decision.
That's cool. I feel like that comes about in so many ways of life.
Yeah.
Right? Like I feel like we can take this spiritually and in so many different ways, but I like that. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Anybody who watches later, thank you. Again, Brittany Bailey with Joyful Breathing. You can look her up if any of this stuff was like, oh man, I need to see her. There's a good chance that she can help you out. I know she's been really helpful in my life. So, all right. Well, that is all. Brittany, do you have anything last pressing that you were like, I have to say this?
I don't. I love chatting with you.
I
love chatting with you, Holly. And I think the takeaway is just really, we can change and make huge changes, and they're simple at times and fun, and just the little bit of TLC you show yourself will go very far.
Yeah. So, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, go get your pinwheels. Yes. And we have another class coming up in a couple weeks. So you can check Amy will be teaching the next, actually, I think I'm teaching the next one. But all the information is in the newsletter that went out today. So go ahead and check that. And if you subscribe to our channel, you will get alerts to when we have our next classes going on. So, all right, thanks for being